Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
The rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
There's a room where the Lord don't fight. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Repill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. Hope everybody is doing well out there. That was Paul Mahan right there, and you can support Paul Mahan music over. Just go, if you want to look at that song right there, redpills.tv/rule the world. The special link that I made over there for Paul. Don't know Paul, never communicated with him. We get nothing out of it, just trying to support great music. And for anybody who guessed it, that used to be the theme song of the Daily Dose for like a few hundred shows. That was the theme song until we got banned because we used it. So we had to change it. But hope everybody out there had a great weekend, and we are rocking and rolling. Man, this week is already getting really interesting. Donald Trump met with the leader of South Korea this morning, signed a few executive orders, and then just most recently fired Lisa Cook from the Federal Board of Governors. That's going to get really interesting. We're going to talk about the economic side of the house in just a little bit towards the end of the show. There's a few things happening that kind of coincide exactly with what we've been saying and talking about over the past few months, with what we've been watching out for. So the things that I do when I look at how the world is unfolding is I make a map, a mental map of kind of the structure of all the things that are happening in the world. And I try to organize them in a perspective that says, if I was going to do this, how would I do it? If I was a deep state, how would I do it? Right? And then we bring about the scenario to where certain things can unfold and happen. And sure enough, been pretty accurate. So, but first, let's talk about this video. So I was kind of like blown away that a few people in the Q community didn't know about this video, but hey, it happens. But this is a story that I've told multiple times on this show before. This is John Solomon. This is what I would call the start. This is when the whole Q movement actually started. Now, the two people that visit John Solomon this night, I don't think it's Q. I think I know who it is, but I'm not going to say who I think it is. It's 2 of 4 people. But listen to what he says right here. Or don't. The video just died on me. Let's try this again. Let's refresh the screen and see if the video works. And in YouTube, if you do have problems with the audio, let me know.
The moment of the last decade of my career occurred in March of 17. I had just done a story that got Sean Hannity's attention. So I was on Fox News. It was about a rapid rise in unmaskings, where Americans' intelligence is looked at, even though there's no warrant. They unmask your name and they know what you said to someone overseas, and they don't get a warrant for it. And it had gone up like 200-300% in the last year of Barack Obama, which is very odd. It was odd to the FISA court. That's why they put the data out. They were concerned that this is a trend. I just thought it was a good civil liberty story, so I wrote it. And at that point, I had been repeatedly told that don't waste your time on Russia collusion. It's going nowhere. And by the way, from some of the most senior leaders of the FBI and the Justice Department, the very people who might also have gone out and told us there was something there when there wasn't. But they were telling me it wasn't. Got home about 10:45, 11 o'clock at night. My wife's already in bed. I pull in the driveway, and there's a blue sedan sitting in front of my mailbox with its yellow fog lights on. And I pull in the driveway, and these 2 GI men get out of their car. It's about 11 o'clock at night. And as I'm getting out of my car, say, "Are you Mr. Solomon?" I'm like, "I don't know. Am I being arrested? What's going on? They get throw cuffs on me? Did I break some classified secret I shouldn't today?" And they're like, "You don't know who we are. We can't tell you who we are, but you're at the tip of a very large iceberg, and we hope you drill into it." And I'm like, "What in God's name are you guys talking about?" "Well, that thing you were reporting on television." Yeah, it's a FISA court filing. It is the apex of a very large scandal, and you need to drill down in it. And all right, walk me through this, guy. "Well, we can't tell you. It's all classified." "Okay, that's not very helpful. Can you give me something of more generic description?" "Yeah, we work in the intelligence committee, and our agencies were asked to participate in one of the greatest political dirty tricks in history. And if it isn't stopped, and one day when it is uncovered, we will lose the tools that keep you and I safe at night. We won't be able to find terrorists, and we won't find spies, because these tools will be taken from us because we abused them in the last couple of years." I'm like, holy mackerel, what's going on here? And so they couldn't give me much more detail, but they inspired me to start wondering about whether I was missing something big. And I got home by that time, and there were 20 minutes. It passed about 11:20 at night. From 11:20 at night to 2 in the morning, I wrote a long email to my then work sister, Sarah Carter, who was just a fantastic reporter, now the drug czar for President Trump. And I just tried to remember everything they told me, like, Sarah, I don't know what the hell these guys are trying to tell us, but tomorrow morning, let's wake up and find out. And that sent us on our journey.
You notice what he said? To GI men, military men, in the intelligence community, military intelligence, that handed John Solomon, in one of the earlier versions, he says that they handed him a folder with information in it of where to dig, of where to look. That was March 2017. That was the beginning. When I heard John Solomon talk about that, I think, 2018, 2019 was the first time I saw the video. I was blown away. I'm like, whoa, that confirms a lot of what we know Q to be. So when we start to look at that, that set the precedent. I mean, you got to understand that set the precedent for the information war that was just beginning around that time. Now, I want to point out that the information war hasn't stopped, that you're always going to continuously be in a war that is after your mind, is after your decisions, your choices, and your beliefs. That even right now, even in the MAGA and the truth and all of our community movements, there are people out there perpetuating false flags, false narratives, propaganda, disinformation, misinformation against you. Now, how do you identify that? Well, it goes back to the Red Pill's motto, right? Never believe anything anybody tells you, no matter who they are or what authority they possess or profess, unless you can prove it with your own research, investigation, through your own inquiry, and through your own volition. Now, one of those has been a lot of people going after General Flynn. I mean, I'm not paid to talk about General Flynn or anything like that. I know General Flynn, but understand, I've supported this man since the beginning, through everything that anybody said, and I've broken down all the connections that people have made and said that he's corrupt or corrupted or anything like this, and I just think these people have no idea what they're talking about. I want you to listen to this video and listen to what General Flynn says specifically. Okay? Now, actually, we'll start with the older video. So this was a post that I put out on August 7th. And I said, listen specifically to what General Flynn says. He has an office in Washington, D.C. He mentions consulting congressmen and senators. He's communicating with foreign ambassadors. He has dialogue with foreign leaders. How is this possible? If you think General Flynn is a private citizen, think again. Listen to what he says here, and then I'm going to play the next video, which will really bring it home for you.
We have an accountability issue that must be dealt with. And I keep telling those foreign leaders that I talk to and the ambassadors that I see in Washington, D.C. periodically, I keep telling them, do not mistake what we're going through internally here in the United States of America as a weakness. This is a strength of our constitutional order. And as ugly as we are operating inside of our family, we're going to fix these problems. We're going to hold people accountable. Trump has to do that. He's got to assure to the American people that that is going to happen. He is the chief law enforcement officer for the country, not the attorney general. We have an.
Now, what did Donald Trump say a few days after this? He's the chief law enforcement officer of the country. Listen to this one.
Lisa B. Pepper, are you really retired? Obviously not. So that's
obviously not. Well, here's where it gets even more interesting. Let's go back one, and let's go to the most recent video that I'm talking about here. This is an interview just this last weekend with Matt Gaetz. Listen to what General Flynn says once again.
That's why I'm glad to see the team that Trump has in there and the kinds of things that they're doing. And one of the big ones that people need to watch is, I think, watch Tulsi Gabbard as the director of national intelligence. She is going to reform, and I will say here that I do, and I stay in touch with her on a very close basis to, because why am I on the outside instead of on the inside? Trust me, folks, in your audience, I can be far more effective on the outside because I can be in a very, discreet advisory position to help guide people and say, look there, and that's right. What I do.
Hey,
and
on the outside,
and I know it's helpful.
That's where you got your hands on.
That's why I'm glad.
A discreet advisory position? How is that possible? General Michael Flynn says for the record that he is in a discreet advisory role where he advises the Trump admin officials like DNI Tulsi Gabbard. And more recently, we know that he had a meeting with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Do you remember this? Because he had a meeting with Pete Hegseth. The next day, Pete Hegseth fired the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. Shit you not. Flynn goes in, has a meeting with Pete Hegseth. The next day, Hegseth fires the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. So, interesting enough, Pete Hegseth, the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, Tulsi Gabbard, were all members of the National Security Council. Flynn is most likely serving under a National Security Council working group invite. It's formed for sensitive issues like cyber, foreign ops, wars, or deep state infiltration. The membership lists are secret. You don't have to release that to the public. Outside experts can be absolutely invited in. Read-ins and NDAs are given to the clearances, and it lets them brief and shape policy and meet with foreign leaders. General Flynn wouldn't need a job title. He'd just be an unofficial official, which I think it's abundantly clear. General Flynn is pointing the direction for a lot of the people in the Trump administration, including the Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, DNI Tulsi Gabbard, and even has Donald Trump's ear. No doubt about it in my mind. Now, on August 23rd, which was 2 days ago, General Michael Flynn posted this. DC weather forecast today, cloudy with a chance of rain, with a cloud that looks like Donald Trump. And what did Flynn say? Flynn said there is a storm coming. Now, I know a lot of people have said that General Flynn came out against Q and QAnon and all that stuff. And absolutely, he'd have to. Plausible deniability, people. He absolutely has to. But see, I think to him is that information campaign that went on doesn't necessarily have to continue in its last context. Instead, it's a completely different perspective that he has on it right now. And he has to protect his own interest as well. The subtle hints that he's given over the years of how he is affiliated with the movement, where we go on, we go all, that little hint right there. This is telling you that he is integrated directly in it. And with the timestamp still coming from Scavino and Trump, I think we understand that we are in the midst of this and that this fall is going to be absolutely epic. Now, Dan Scavino, this last weekend, posted 3 targets, a U.S. flag, and an American eagle. He posted this at 10:45. 10:45 p.m. Look at this. Q post 10:45. How soon? We don't inform our enemies of specifics. We instead instill fear in them to make unplanned and disastrous counter moves. Moves and counter moves, people. The whole world is watching what is happening right now. The Trump administration has been almost flawless with everything that is going on. Oh, Stuck Patriot. Thank you so much, $10 Rumble Rant. Got to head back to the work, but I know you're going to drop some Moabs tonight. Have a great show. Thank you so much, Stuck Patriot. Appreciate that. And thanks for the $10 Rumble Rant. And then a $50 Rumble Rant from Seth Admonson. Thank you so much, Seth. Thank you for the thumbs up, buddy. Appreciate you. Thank you guys for all the support out there. You guys are absolutely awesome. Now, when it comes to who we are and what we talk about, we have to understand that any campaign against us that come out and tell us that we're full of shit or that we're propaganda artists or that we're conspiracy theorists is simply derived from the actual adversary. Listen to this video because this lady breaks it down perfectly in the context of how the origins of conspiracy theories came about. Listen to this.
So what if I told you that the Vietnam War was started with a lie, and that the phrase conspiracy theorist was actually invented by the CIA to shut people up who figured out about it? Let's talk about how the government gaslit an entire generation into war and then smeared anybody who questioned it. In 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson told the American public that a U.S. ship called the USS Maddox had been attacked by North Vietnamese forces in the Gulf of Tonkin. Except for that second attack, yeah, it never happened. No, not like maybe didn't happen, like definitely didn't happen. It was a complete fabrication. But that didn't stop Congress from passing the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, which essentially gave Johnson a blank check to escalate the war in Vietnam. So yeah, by 1968, we had over 500,000 troops in Vietnam. We were carpet bombing villages, spraying chemical weapons like Agent Orange, and millions of Vietnamese citizens based on a lie. So here's the part that they don't teach you about in school. After France lost its colonial war in Vietnam, the US stepped in, ignored international agreements, and installed this dictator in the South. He was so corrupt and brutal that even the Vietnamese people fucking hated this guy. And when nationwide elections were planned to unify the country, elections Ho Chi Minh was guaranteed to win, we backed out. We canceled. No democracy for you, baby. So yeah, we didn't just join the Vietnam War. We escalated, provoked, and manipulated our way into it. Now here's where it gets even a little bit darker. As thousands of soldiers and anti-war protests exploded across the US, people started asking questions, you know? Like, why were we even in Vietnam? Why were the poor drafted while the rich got deferments? And why did the government lie about the Gulf of Tonkin? And the CIA, they were not about to lose that narrative, let me tell you. So in 1967, they wrote a classified memo, CIA Dispatch number 1035-960. It was a propaganda guide that was sent to journalists and foreign operatives on how to low-key discredit anybody speaking out against this shit, especially when people were asking too many questions around the JFK assassination. This memo wanted to call these people conspiracy theorists, because that term didn't really exist before then. And then it was weaponized to shame critical thinkers, equating questioning the government with being absolutely unhinged, batshit crazy out of your mind. Oh, and it worked. Think about that for a second. The Vietnam War was escalated with a provable lie, sustained by media propaganda, and shielded by a weaponized insult that's still used today. Conspiracy theorists back then didn't mean crazy, it just meant somebody who wasn't buying the government's bullshit. And honestly, the people that they were calling crazy were fucking right. So next time somebody says, well, the government would never do that, just remind them that they already did. And they made sure that you would be too embarrassed to say anything about it. And if you think this is fucking crazy, just wait till you hear what we did in Panama.
No, wait till you hear what we did in the United States of America. Wait till you hear what we did from 2010 to 2020, utilizing the Department of Justice and the intelligence agencies. Wait till you see the unraveling of how deep this rabbit hole really goes, because they use the same MO. They use the same MO. That's what they did. She is spot on right. And it's interesting that in the year 2025, we're finding once again that all the conspiracy theorists were correct. Absolutely correct. From COVID all the way down to 2020 to Pfizer-gate to Pizzagate. We were correct. We were right. And they tried to cover it up, and they tried to cover it up by weaponizing the intelligence communities, by weaponizing the DOJ, by weaponizing big tech and the media industry against us. And in the midst of all of it, they created a whole new social construct of brainwashed individuals falling for immense evil propaganda. The whole world's watching, people. This is going to get very, very interesting over the course of the next few months. Now, I'm one to think, when I start seeing certain things happen, I can tell you with a high level of assurity that something's going to happen. Now, we've laid this out over the last few months, specifically the last week, we talked about this. In preparation for arrests, certain things are happening. National Guard is being deployed. We're learning the National Guard, 1,700 National Guardsmen to 19 different cities. Well, wait a minute. 1,700 divided by 9, that's roughly about what? 50 National Guardsmen? Yeah, 90 National Guardsmen per city? Because it's a quick reactionary strategic defense force. What? That's not for riot control. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, of why it's only 1,700 and who it actually might really be. But let's look at the global scenario here we have right now. 4 U.S. destroyers, 2 amphibs, 4,000 Marines off the coast of Venezuela right now. We have Venezuelan President Maduro just deploying 1,700 troops to his border. Only 1,700. Not the 1.7 million, which he said he was going to. Just 1,700. Because that's going to hold off 4,000 Marines, right? We have the Trump administration listing various cartels, gangs, and other drug trafficking criminal organizations as terrorist organizations, which they are. We have the National Guard deployed to Washington, D.C., soon to be Chicago, New York, California, already in L.A. We got 20,000 troops on the southern border. They're utilizing crime as the mechanism to do this. But we know that it's something much greater. We had over 23 million people come over the southern border of the United States of America from 2020 to 2024 under the radical Biden regime. And we can see that there is a prime kind of situation arising for sleeper cells and sleeper agents and gangs to be activated to produce violence to topple U.S. cities, to produce a color revolution in sorts, to bring about the level of chaos that the elite need to sustain their movements and move it forward, to fracture the Trump progress that he's made with the Make America Great Again. I want you to know how serious this really is and how serious the Trump administration is taking this. This is a video from Mexico. Okay? Now, watch this video. It looks like Mexican military fighting against somebody. But it's not. It's cartel wars. Those are cartel members, outfitted in uniforms with their own patches, with top-of-the-line weapons and drones. Just recently, a senator from Mexico went on Fox News, and he exposed it all. The president of Mexico works for the cartels. She was funded by the money from the cartels. It's not just the president. There's an entire group of Mexican politicians labeled the narco politicians. Mexico is a narco state. Mexicans are afraid of the alliance between the Mexican government and the cartels. The Morena political party is financed by the cartels. That's how they get elected. Once they get elected, the deal is for the Mexican government to then protect the cartels by giving them guns and money and territory. The president of Mexico, Claudio Sheinbaum Pardo, doesn't want this information getting out. Mexicans and the politicians who are not paid off by the cartels want Donald Trump to help with the cartels. The Mexican senator exposing all this says she is now being threatened with prison for speaking out. The president has threatened me to proceed against me with criminal prosecution, get me out of the Senate and get me in jail just because I told you this on Fox News. Let's listen to a portion of this of the Mexican senator talking about it.
The president of Mexico is furious. She's calling Mexican Senator Lili Tellez a traitor for coming on Fox Noticias with me a few days ago and saying this. Listen.
The help from the United States to fight the cartels in Mexico is absolutely welcome, and that is how the majority of Mexicans feel. The only ones who don't like that President Trump is sending help and trying to support Mexicans against the cartels are the narco politicians. That includes President Sheinbaum.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum responding, saying, quote, "It's not a minor issue that a senator gave an interview to a foreign media outlet calling for intervention." Here to discuss is that Mexican Senator Lili Tellez. Senator Tellez, welcome to Fox Noticias. I'm just going to get right to it. Is Mexico a narco state?
Yes, it is. And we all Mexicans know about it. And Mexicans are afraid of the alliance between the Mexican government and the cartels. that have infested our nation.
Can you explain this alliance between the president, her party, the Morena party, and the cartels?
Yes, the party has financed, has given, the cartels have given so much money to these politicians, narco politicians of Morena, to get into office, to get the power. So they protect, the Mexican government protects the cartels. That is why President Sheinbaum doesn't want the strong American leadership to help Mexico defeat the cartels. And also Sheinbaum doesn't want the rest of the world to know what is happening here in Mexico. We are on the steps to be the next Venezuela. She is aligned with Venezuela's dictator, with Cuba, and we are losing our country. They have destroyed our Republican institutions, the democratic state, and we must, I think we all Mexicans want and welcome the support of the United States to assist Mexican people against the cartels that have us all in this crisis with the traffic in fentanyl and migrants.
So, interesting enough, they need to get that woman out of Mexico immediately. Donald Trump administration needs to immediately go out, call for her to come to the United States of America and put her under protective custody. Because she's going to be dead in a week. And in Mexico, they really don't care. They don't care what it looks like in the news media. On the other hand, what did she say at the end? Mexico is becoming Venezuela, that they're in cahoots with Venezuela, that they are co-sponsors of the fentanyl and illegal immigration. Who did I say was really behind all of that? Who's behind the fentanyl flowing through the southern border? It's China. Who's behind the shipping of the illegal immigrants from Africa, the Middle East, and China to Venezuela? China. It's a proxy war, people. China has been building up proxy forces in Mexico, in Cuba, in Venezuela. And with the Biden administration, they allowed 23 million to flow over our border, with millions of them were directly associated with the cartels, the gangs, criminal organizations, Chinese military, terrorist organizations around the world, all with one directive: wait for activation and then let all hell break loose, take over critical infrastructure, take down the United States of America. That's the plan. So what you're seeing, moves and counter moves, is a neutralization of this by Donald Trump. 20,000 troops on the southern border, 99.999% decrease in border crossings. China has been basically neutralized economically. Xi Jinping is not going to screw with Donald Trump. He's already came out and publicly said it. On the other hand, Venezuela, we have 4 U.S. warships off the coast of Venezuela, 2 amphibs, 4,000 Marines, and Venezuela sent 15,000 troops through their southern border. Doesn't matter. Those 15,000 troops would be decimated within a matter of an hour by U.S. Navy land bombardments. So the U.S. Navy sitting off the coast of Venezuela is timed strategically right before the fall, right before arrests begin. Why? Because if Venezuela knows, if Maduro knows, if China and Maduro know that the U.S. Navy is sitting right there off their coast and they're willing to just bomb the shit out of Venezuela to take out Maduro, then they won't activate sleeper cells in the United States of America when arrests begin to happen. If they know that there's 20,000 troops on the southern border instantly deployable anywhere in the country within a matter of hours, that you have National Guard quick reactionary forces being deployed to over 19 different states, then they understand that any attempt to rise up in the United States of America with sleeper force agents is going to be highly deterred. One of the things that I've talked about since the beginning of the Trump administration is that Tom Homan's team. You notice that Tom Homan's team is going like from New York to California. They're going to Chicago. They're going all over the place. They're hitting all of these critical sanctuary states. Why? Because Tom Homan's team isn't just Tom Homan's team. Yes, it's the Department of Homeland Security. One of the things I don't think people understand is that Tom Homan has a military attaché with him, a group of special forces operators that are trained in collecting intelligence. And what are they collecting intelligence on? Sleeper cells. Al-Qaeda, Taliban, ISIS, various different Tren de Agua, cartels. Because what they're doing in the context of ICE and Tom Homan's team is they're going in and they're taking out the low-hanging fruit. And as you begin to take out the mass of low-hanging fruit at the bottom, the people in the middle and the people at the top begin to talk. When are they coming for us? What do we need to do? Do we need to move our supplies? Hey, they just hit one of our warehouses in California. Do you remember this? Right before all of the No Kings protests began to happen, ICE raided a warehouse in California, which was directly associated as a warehouse for the cartels. And what happened that weekend? Oh, that's when the protests began to form and the National Guard had to get deployed in California. See how that works? So what happens when they begin talking about these things? Well, we intercept those communications. That goes to military intelligence, and then special forces operators begin to track down the locations of where these people are, what they're doing, and what they're moving. This is what these guys are trained to do. In other words, every move that the deep state, the globalists, the criminal organizations that are operating in our country that are getting ready for a firestorm type of event, every move that they do is being immediately countered by Trump's administration. As if the Trump administration knows exactly what they're going to do next. It's like we have the playbook or something. General Michael Flynn to foreign terrorist leader Maduro. Your days are seriously numbered. You do not stand a chance against the counterterrorism forces of the United States of America. You are responsible for the deaths and maiming of thousands of Americans. We will no longer stand for this. We finally have a leader in the White House who has the courage and the guts to do the right thing. My strongest suggestion is for you to take a vacation with your Syrian buddy Assad and get a one-way ticket to Moscow very soon, like the next 24 hours. The people of Venezuela have had enough of your tyranny. They strongly desire peace, liberty, and prosperity, all of which they can have under a duly elected leadership. So, what does this mean? General Michael Flynn, who I just showed you, is a discreet advisor for the Trump administration. He's talking to DNI Tulsi Gabbard. He's talking to Pete Hegseth. He's talking to Donald Trump. He's advising them, and they're taking his advice, the firing of the DIA head. Donald Trump coming us out and saying, I'm the head law enforcement officer of the country. That's what Michael Flynn said 2 days before. Now Michael Flynn is telling you what? Foreign terrorist leader Maduro, your days are seriously numbered. You do not stand a chance. Leave your country right now. For Russia, get out. As in, buckle up, Buttercup. We're about to go to war. The Trump administration, I believe, is about to launch a massive campaign, probably starting around September 1st timeframe, annihilating the cartels throughout Mexico, Central America, and Venezuela. This is why we have 4,000 Marines and quick reactionary forces of Marines on those amphibs. We have 4 destroyers. This is the exact complement that you would want for ground bombardment, for troop replenishment, for a quasi-style invasion. Venezuela is going to be the first. I bet we send various different special operation teams into Mexico to take out the various different cartel heads. And then they'll do a roundup in the streets of the United States of America, because I believe that their intelligence gathering campaign in the United States of locating these terror cells has finalized. They know who they are, they know where they are, and they know where they're located. Now, how are they going to go get them? Well, that's where it gets pretty interesting. I mean, number one, the first thing that Trump has to do is he has to change the name of America's military agency, the Department of Defense, to the Department of War. That's going to be the first thing. But what has to happen first before all of that happens? Well, they have to deploy the National Guard, 1,700 of them, to 19 cities. let's do the math on that. Hold on a second. Just something about that doesn't make sense. 1,700 divided by, what did I say, 19 cities? That's 90 National Guard troops per city. Wait a minute. 90 National Guard troops is not going to do shit for riot control. You got over 1,000 in Washington, D.C. And that's a small comparison city in the context of crime than Chicago or New York. What's 90 going to do in Chicago or New York? But don't forget, you get 20,000 sitting on the U.S. border, instantly deployable hours anywhere in the country. That is your reaction force for riots and burning down the cities if that happens. The 1,700 National Guardsmen that are going to get deployed are most likely, in my opinion, probably going to be intelligence and special operation forces. And the 90 team members per major city are going to be exactly that. Quick reactionary task force sent out there to go out there, hunt down these terrorist cells that are inside of our cities and remove them immediately. And you're going to see that probably kick off in the next few weeks here, once they're already in place. Do you see the mastermind, the military operation that is about to occur that's right in front of our faces and nobody's talking about it? It's right there in front of us. And looking at Donald Trump, Flynn and Pete Hegseth and these guys, look, this is genius. Like, they played the deep state like a fiddle. They knew exactly the moves that they were doing. What were the moves the deep state was doing? The fucking firestorm. Exactly what we've been saying for the last 5 years here on the show. They're infiltrating into our cities. Eventually what they're going to do is a point of vulnerability is going to come. You're going to have social collapse. You're going to have social, cultural destabilization, political destabilization, infiltration of all of our organizations. It's going to lead to attacks on infrastructure, attack on supply chain, of which then you're going to have global economic collapse and World War III breakout. This was their plan. And it's been massively foiled. Because right now, Donald Trump has all of the counter moves in place against the deep state. And it's absolutely epic to watch this. Now, one of the other things that Trump did. Today, Trump signed an executive order on burning flags. Now, you have even a lot of MAGA conservatives out there yelling and screaming, this is a violation of my constitutional First Amendment right. Well, that's right. If Donald Trump passed an executive order stating that you can't burn a United States flag, then yeah, that is a violation of your constitutional rights. Various different types of Supreme Court cases have already been determined on this, like Texas versus Johnson or United States versus Eichmann. But see, the people that are out there yelling and screaming, even the Democrats or even the MAGA Republicans, they didn't read the executive order. It's kind of funny. So, the order does not outlaw flag burning as a form of protest. It does not overturn Texas versus Johnson, United States versus Eichmann, or the landmark Supreme Court cases that recognize flag desecration as protected speech. Instead, it targets only those instances where flag burning crosses the line into incitement or criminal conduct. What does that mean? The order directs the Attorney General to prosecute acts of flag desecration to the maximum extent permitted by the Constitution. That qualification is everything. It acknowledges rather than denies the constitutional protection for expressive flag burning, but it also insists that when a flag desecration functions as incitement to imminent lawless action, or when it accompanies acts like arson, rioting, or assault, prosecutors should treat it as such. The executive order stands firmly with the exceptions that the Supreme Court itself has long recognized. Guys, in the Summer of Love protests, what were some of the first things that we began to see? Flag burning. The flag burning went about to incite riots and violence and violent protests, right? What did we know about the people that were out there with the megaphones burning the flag. They were paid actors. That they were paid to be there. They were paid to do those acts. Trump knows this. His administration knows this. And so with this executive order, it's almost like they're anticipating that there's going to be protests that are going to rise up and that you're going to have instigators out there burning the American flag as a point of instigation that brings about fire into the context that's then used to go out there and start bigger fires. Well, now the police have a reason to intervene on what would be normally a nonviolent protest. If you have someone out there inciting more progression, violence, and they burn a flag and they throw the flag into grass, onto a tree, into a garbage can, into a building, immediately arrested. Not only that, is anybody who's with them, who's associated in those acts, gets arrested. It's basically a mechanism to stop a lot of the violence before it actually escalates. That's at least what I see it for. Sidney Powell. And by the way, if you're wondering what's coming this fall, number one, we got FISA-gate, and we're seeing the outpouring of that right now. Interesting. John Bolton raid, very interesting. But Sidney Powell this weekend just said, real Tina Peters is a material witness in a federal investigation. She should be taken into protected federal custody immediately. Interesting. Because guess what? Tina Peters is absolutely a material witness in a federal investigation. Ed Martin has already announced that they are investigating 2020 election fraud. Tina Peters secured evidence that was being destroyed by the Colorado Secretary of State. And she's in prison for 9 years because of it. I bet you within the coming weeks, you're going to see Tina Peters move to federal custody. I think that all of these moves are going to begin coalescing all together. Now, here's something interesting. And this is my conspiracy mind looking at what's happening. Did you know that Napa Valley is under an immense fire right now? Napa's vineyards burn under the apocalyptic orange sky. 5,800 plus acres gone, only 11% contained. California's wine capital is fighting for breath. Now, this is interesting. The reason this is interesting, I posted this earlier today. Does anybody find it interesting that the Napa Valley is on fire? Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, retains financial stakes through a blind trust in Napa Valley vineyards and wineries, Plumpjack, Cade, Odette, and Asa. In other words, him and his family, Nancy Pelosi, his aunt and Nancy Pelosi. If you didn't know, Gavin Newsom is the nephew of Nancy Pelosi. Okay, but Nancy and Gavin own Napa Valley. The fires in Napa Valley started a little after Newsom's attack on Trump. This whole month, what we've seen is Gavin Newsom launched a campaign, probably organized by the Democrats, to mock Donald Trump. And they're doing all of this campaign, going out there and creating their own MAGA merch and stuff like that. Now, this is where it gets very interesting. And by the way, they're disobeying federal mandates and policies. If those fires persist, they're going to require FEMA emergency funding, which just a month ago, Donald Trump threatened to withhold from Newsom if he did not comply with the mandates and the policies. In other words, Newsom will have to make a choice very soon on the fires, which will require federal intervention. Ultimately, he will have to stop his negative mocking campaign on Trump if he wants approvals from the administration. Now, I don't believe in coincidences. I'm not sure if this is strategic divine intervention or if there is something more here, like directed energy weapons, start a fire in the vineyards, burn it all fucking down, and then when he comes to me for money, he's going to bow. I don't know. Potentially. But the fact that these fires are going to force Newsom's hand is kind of sweet irony, isn't it? Did anybody else notice that? Senior advisor to President Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, revealed a massive scandal has been uncovered in Washington, D.C. The Democrat-run police department has been extensively hiding crime statistics, going so far as reporting homicides as accidents instead of murders. This is huge because guess what? It's not just Washington, D.C.
And the president spoke about this before. We've uncovered, in the process of uncovering, a massive scandal in Washington, D.C. with the doctoring of crime stats. And the Department of Justice, under the Attorney General, is leading the effort to uncover this. But when we ultimately share the results, it will stun you. The extent to which, even though D.C. had the worst crime in America, honestly measured, it dramatically understated how bad it was. There's even accusations that murders and homicides were reported as accidents instead of murders. I mean, this is how severe the manipulation of the crime data has been in the city, and it will all be uncovered, and it will all be brought to light.
It'll all be brought to light? Wasn't it DNI Tulsi Gabbard just the other day who said that it's all going to be brought to light? Stephen Miller saying it's all going to be brought to light. All of these correlate with Trump timestamp or Q timestamps to say from dark to light. Interesting. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson implies his people will rise up against tyranny via riots and unrest against the Trump administration if he sends troops to Chicago to lower the crime rate. Does anybody want to tell Mayor Johnson you can't say that? You can't do that? That is inciting a riot. He's going to get his ass arrested. Let it. I'm okay with that. But here's the thing is I think the people of Chicago would much rather see Brandon Johnson gone and arrested and the crime cleaned up. I guarantee you, 90% of the people you ask in Chicago would love to see the crime cleaned up. And from what I hear is they're going to get some National Guard people heading out to Chicago to clean up the crime, just like they're doing in Washington, D.C. By the way, it's been 11 days in Washington, D.C. without a murder. That is mind-blowing. But imagine that in Chicago as well. So the 1,700 National Guard troops are set to mobilize in 19 states in the coming weeks to assist the Department of Homeland Security with President Trump's nationwide crackdown on illegal immigration and crime. What are the states? Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Mexico, Ohio, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, Wyoming. They need to add Minneapolis or Minnesota in there as well. Now, did you know that they've deputized National Guard troops and they've also authorized National Guard troops to be armed? Arming of our National Guard. This is like, people are probably screaming posse comitatus, but at some point in time. But it's almost like Donald Trump is setting the stage. So review a little statistics real quick. Armed National Guardsmen, thousands of them all throughout Washington, D.C. Federal officers being sworn in through all jurisdictions around this country and sent to all different types of various states and cities throughout our country, including Washington, D.C. 1,700 National Guardsmen being deployed to 19 different states, 20,000 troops on our southern border. It's almost like Donald Trump enacted the Insurrection Act without actually enacting the Insurrection Act. In other words, he declared martial law without declaring martial law. And he did it under the pretense of illegal immigration and rampant crime. So when all of these people are deployed throughout the country and they're doing their thing and something does happen, now when he enacts the Insurrection Act or declares martial law, it happens instantaneously instead of 12 or 24 hours down the road while National Guard is getting called up and then deployed. It's all about that quick reaction. Did you know that the Trump White House is working directly with conservative state lawmakers to bring about an Make America Great Again agenda at the state level, holding strategy sessions with legislators from Louisiana, Missouri, and Wyoming. And they're open to all different types of states to do the same thing. Man, this is what we need. And hopefully after 2026, it'll be in Minnesota. Because I have a feeling that Minnesota is probably going to turn red over the next 2 years. But bye, Amy Klobuchar. Trump effect, U.S. immigration policy. U.S. immigrant population declines for the first time in nearly 60 years. Huge. This was interesting. Now, this makes sense. We've talked about this before. This is not new, but there's a new CIA whistleblower who's coming out with this. So he's not new. He's actually been around for a while. But CIA whistleblower alleges a Biden administration sent $152 billion to Iran in blackmail payments to cover up the assassination of SEAL Team 6, also known as Extortion 17. SEAL Team 6 was betrayed. Obama-Biden admin sent $152 billion in Iran, shocking blackmail deal. Former CIA operative has come forward with explosive evidence claiming that President Obama, VP Biden, Secretary Clinton, and CIA Director Brennan were directly involved in the deliberate execution of SEAL Team 6 and paid $152 billion to Iran to cover it up. According to Alan Haro Parrott, the whistleblower, the real Osama bin Laden was being hidden in Iran and was swapped out before the raid. SEAL Team 6 unknowingly killed a decoy and were later eliminated to protect the lie. Iran then blackmailed the Obama administration into handing over $152 billion or risk the truth being exposed. I think that there's some legitimacy to this, but there's some other parts here. Number one is they knew it was not the real Osama bin Laden. From what I gather, Osama bin Laden actually died in 2004 in a U.S. hospital in Saudi Arabia. But anyways, they knew it was the fake Osama bin Laden. They wouldn't need to kill SEAL Team 6 because of that. There was something else going on that's really not being mentioned here. I don't know the total details on it, what Extortion 17 was doing and other missions that they were accompanying. But yes, there was blackmail from Iran in that time frame. And that Iranian blackmail was definitely paid by the Obama administration to Iran. But that wasn't all of it. You got to go into the Phil Haney story, the Muslim Brotherhood, Caire, the Muslim alliances that were infiltrating our country. They were allowed in. They were allowed to go out there and refine uranium. They were given U.S. uranium through the Uranium One scandal. They were paid billions of dollars in order to do that. It wasn't a blackmail operation per se. It was a collaboration directly with the enemy. The FBI is seeking to charge former National Security Advisor John Bolton for allegedly emailing highly sensitive classified material through a private server. So, Next News Network, like some of their work, they reposted this the video of John Bolton walking through the streets of Qatar. Newly resurfaced footage places John Bolton in Doha, Qatar, January 15th, 2020, walking along Al Rayyan Road, just steps from the palace tied to the Qatar's elite. With the FBI raid in his U.S. house, deciding raises explosive new questions. So, why was John Bolton in Qatar in 2020? What is going on? Why did the FBI raid John Bolton's house? They're saying that he has a private email server of which he was sharing classified information with his family. Guys, John Bolton wasn't sharing classified emails with his wife who lives with him or his daughter who works for Nissan. Okay? He was sharing classified information with other deep state agents. I think, honestly, the reason that they went in there for John Bolton's server, the reason why Conway was there, George Conway was there that morning, was to try to retrieve that server before the FBI got there, and he was unable to do it. But I bet you that server has some damning evidence, massive amounts of insurance policies on that, but also was the intermediary for deep state communication. but also has some other damning information. Why? Well, you have to bring in the Qatar connection, Qatar, right? One of Qatar's great allies is the country of Iran. We just mentioned Iran. Iran works for the deep state, or worked for the deep state, for Brennan and Obama. Not blackmail the other way around, blackmail the other way around, okay? Intelligence operated Iran. Same thing with Syria, which has since been liberated. So he was in Qatar. He has direct communications with Qatar. Now, if the country of Qatar knows that Donald Trump is coming back in the office, you'd think they would seek to meet with him. Well, they did after Butler, Pennsylvania. They did in September of 2024. They came to Mar-a-Lago and met with Donald Trump after going to the United Nations in New York, and then came to Mar-a-Lago. And then Trump went to Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia, and he cut a deal with them. They're going to invest trillions of dollars in the U.S. over the course of the next 10 years. Not only that, as Qatar gets a part of the Iranian resource deal, which is being negotiated to where Iran will join parts of OPEC to bring their oil to the open market, undercutting China out of that deal. But also Iran is in the playing field that they're cutting their deep state ties, that they're no longer going to be utilized as a proxy. When that begins to happen, you'll see the sanctions relieved. But I wonder what Qatar had to say about John Bolton. I wonder what Vladimir Putin gave Donald Trump this last week that maybe was implicating to various different deep state members. Do you remember when Thomas Crooks took the shot at Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, and his phone was confiscated, and they said that it had 3 foreign connections on his phone? Germany, Brussels, and another European country. But originally what we heard was that the 2 foreign countries on his phone were Iran and Israel. But that got covered up real fast. Brussels and Russia, kind of like nonchalant right there, right? Not very harmful. But from what I gather from my friends is that it was Israel and Iran were the points of contact that he had on that phone. Now, do you remember 2 days after Butler, Pennsylvania, the Biden administration comes out and says there's an active Iranian threat on Donald Trump's life. Almost like they were trying to cover up their tracks. Almost like it was sequential that the Iranian investigation threat into Donald Trump's life was already relevant because they were waiting for Crooks to kill Trump. The patsy takes out, the sniper takes out the patsy, right? And then they blame it on Iran. It gets into a whole Iran war, messes up the whole election. They steal it. Bada bing, bada boom, they stay in power. That's what was supposed to happen. But it didn't happen. We had a miracle intervention in Butler, Pennsylvania that day. And so they had to cover their tracks. And this is why when you went into Thomas Crook's house, it was completely cleaned with a white glove. Even the trash was taken out. We know that it was most likely a CIA hit job. And when I say CIA, I'm talking about the deep intelligence apparatus, which John Bolton is directly connected with. We know that they wanted to blame this on Iran, so there had to be coordination and collaboration directly with Iran on this. I wonder who that intermediary point was. Bolton's connections to Qatar and Iran, Butler, Pennsylvania. You remember back in March of 2025, Donald Trump said, we're going to declassify all of the information pertaining to the attempted assassination attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. We're going to do it next week. Never happened. Why? I think you understand now. All right, what else we got here? Trump met with South Korea's president today, and he says something very interesting. And this isn't a blind threat. This is obviously a conversation I think he's already had with Xi Jinping. Listen to this.
And I'm sure you can go, but we're going to have a great relationship with China. I mean, it's happening. You see it. It's happening. They have some cards. We have incredible cards, but I don't want to play those cards. That would, if I played those cards, that would destroy China. I'm not going to play those cards.
Mr. President, if I played those cards, I would destroy China. Wow. Huge. What is he talking about there? He's talking about technology. He's releasing it all. We're on that slow drip disclosure. I got to give a shout out to more Rumble rants that come in. Chore Boss, chemtrails are all but gone here. Went from 100 plus to 65 degrees a day. Don't know if it's good or bad. I understand 100% the temperature has definitely decreased. This is the coldest August that I've seen in a very long time. $100 Rumble rant right there. Thank you so much, Chore Boss. Please, Chore Boss. Sorry about that. What is it? T Shaw War. $10 Rumble rant. Josh, you are awesome in your information. Keep up the great work and stay safe. Thank you so much, my friend. Appreciate both of you guys. Thank you so much there. All right, going back into this. So Trump telling China, don't fuck around. We can take you out. And I think that China already knows this. The Trump administration plans to reportedly remove COVID-19 vaccines from the U.S. market within the next few months. Huge. Huge. The IDF appears to blame journalists after wiping them out in a Gaza hospital strike. Reporting from an active war zone carries immense risk, says Israel IDF spokesman. I said that Israel is not what you believe it to be. And I'll even read a little bit of a post that I thought multiple times before posting. So while Netanyahu calls Nasser hospital attack a mishap and expresses regret, Israel media and soldiers say it was approved by the top brass. So I made this little parody. Oops, from Israel. Oops. We're sorry we killed innocent journalists, women, and children. We were simply trying to kill an invisible boogeyman who has no face, no name, and is everybody. And I'm sure you know we funded them in the 90s and even throughout the 2000s. We don't know how this happened, considering we have technology that is far more advanced than our adversary and with intelligence brought about by billions of dollars to spend each year. It is not like this happened before either. Well, maybe a few dozens of times over the last few years. But we promise we are the good guys because God told you so in the Bible. So you better believe that or you'll go to hell. We also killed Jesus. But we swear that was an accident too. Shalom. Now I'm going to get labeled an anti-Semite for that. It's okay. Because people need to start calling out this bullshit. It is... Listen, I understand war has consequences. But the Nasser hospital attack was an attack on the journalists and on the hospital and on the people in there. They didn't need to hit that facility, but they did. And it was approved by the top levels of the military and the IDF. Not the same Israel as the Israel from the Bible, people. At least that's my perspective. U.S. stock valuations have reached their highest level on record, surpassing both dot-com bubble and the 1929 peak before the onset of the Great Depression. That's right. Look at the graph, people. It's all manipulated for a reason. Now, someone sold off a massive amount of Bitcoin over the last few days. A Bitcoin whale sold 24,000 Bitcoin worth 2.7 billion, causing the negative $4,000 crash in minutes. Now, Zero Hedge said, now why would someone want to sell a huge block and take out the entire bid stack 3 times in a row just so they can trigger sell momentum and accumulate much lower? We find out today that was BlackRock. It was BlackRock that was selling off the Bitcoin. Now, why? Maybe the deep state plan is still moving forward and they want to produce their economic crash and collapse before it actually happens. This is all part of the sequence, right? They produce the bubble in the market. They have the reverse repo market that is absolutely drained of capital. You have quantitative tightening that is going to have to occur. The Fed is going to have to sell off massive amounts of debt that nobody's going to want to buy. This gives the Trump administration the ability to go around the Fed for one of the first times in history. But what else is happening? Because there's another tone economically that we're beginning to see. Recently, Donald Trump has been talking about how the CEO of Intel, who a month ago, Trump was like, this guy's associated with China, he needs to resign immediately. Next thing you know is Donald Trump's like, he's an amazing dude, I love him. He just gave the United States of America 10% of Intel. So the United States of America, the people, we hold 10% interest in a multi-billion-dollar company, $11 billion worth of interest in Intel. Now, Donald Trump came out and said that they're reportedly planning on taking state ownership in more private businesses. Now, I've said this before. This is kind of like private-public partnerships as discussed by the World Economic Forum, but it's not. I'm going to explain to you how this is different. Trump said today that he's in favor of the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, revoking ABC and NBC's news licenses. Well, let me ask you this. What do you think NBC and ABC are going to do? They're going to offer the American people 10% of their company to stop the millions of dollars of payments that's going to happen to come to keep their licenses. This is where it gets really interesting. Now, I want to make a side point here. Donald Trump said this today. I don't know if people caught it. He said that I've stopped 7 wars from happening, even the potential nuclear war between India and Pakistan. He goes, you know how I did it? I threatened both sides with 200% tariffs. And he said immediately they put all their differences aside and there's peace. That's how Donald Trump negotiates. So understand that when he's doing these types of things, he's doing them for the best of the American people. Let's break this down. I had to bring up my notes here. Strategic ownership for national security. The Trump administration acquiring a 10% stake in Intel marks a historic precedent. It isn't funding tech. Remember, trillions of dollars in investment. They're owning a part of it. Now, if you go back to my original conversations that we had on the Sovereign Wealth Fund, this is before all of this, guys. This is back in January and February. This is back in last year. And I said, what Trump's going to do is he's going to retain ownership in these companies, in the patents, and he's going to have a dividend that's going to come in paid to the country through the Sovereign Wealth Fund. What are we seeing right now? The Trump administration taking a 10% stake in Intel. The Trump administration has 3 different companies. OpenAI, you have Oracle, Meta. And what are they doing? Oh, the Trump administration has Detachment 301, a U.S. Army detachment that is now sitting in various different executive portions of that company and holds the equitable rights to them under national security. Where does the dividends go? Sovereign Wealth Fund. Now he's going to go out there and probably get it NBC and ABC too. Sovereign Wealth Fund. Well, why is that? Because when AI starts displacing jobs, you have something else that would potentially come in called universal basic income. Now, this looks like public-private partnerships. Now, the World Economic style public-private partnerships are about shared governance and globalized control. This is absolutely not. The U.S. approach is about sovereign ownership and national security, not multilateral compromise. Instead of eroding sovereignty, the model forfeits it, ensuring American citizens, not international bodies, are the beneficiaries. Now, when we talk about universal basic income, this is not universal basic income. Unlike UBI, which is government distributed welfare, this model is market-driven. Dividends, if structured, would come from real returns on equity stakes in successful U.S. companies. Citizens benefits as shareholders of the national security industry, not as dependents of government handouts. This is a capitalistic hybrid model for the future. This represents a new capitalistic hybrid model. Private companies remain free market actors. Government holds equity in strategic sectors for national security. Citizens potentially benefit as collective shareholders via sovereign wealth fund. It balances market dynamism with strategic protectionism, ensuring U.S. dominance in the coming century. The Trump doctrine is establishing a two-track system: financial stakes in companies and human capital integration. That together with a new model of techno-sovereignty, this is not socialism, it's not UBI, it's not the globalist public-private partnerships. It's in a uniquely American hybrid designed to protect national security, maintain global dominance, and return value to the American people. Fucking genius. And what happened just today before the show? Donald Trump has relieved Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook from her position. We talked about this last week, that they were requesting that she resign. This is because of mortgage fraud. And we see today, Donald Trump, pursuant to my authority under Article 2 of the Constitution of the United States and the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, as amended, you are hereby removed from your position on the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, effective immediately. The Federal Reserve Act provides that you may be removed at my discretion for cause. See 12 U.S.C. Section 242. I determined there are sufficient cause to remove you from your position. As set forth in the criminal referral dated August 15, 2025, from Mr. William J. Pulte, Director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, and Mrs. Pamela Bondi, Attorney General of the United States. Your criminal referral: there is sufficient reason to believe you may have made false statements on one or more mortgage agreements. For example, detailed in the criminal referral, you signed one document attesting that a property in Michigan would be your primary residence for the next year. 2 weeks later, you signed another document for a property in Georgia stating it would be your primary residence for the next year. It is inconceivable that you are not aware of your first amendment when making the second. It is impossible that you intended to honor both. Now Donald John Trump gets to appoint another Federal Board Reserve Governor. But he will now have the majority of them on his side because it will all be his appointments. Next up, Jerome Powell. And what we are going to see over the course of the next 2 years is the moving around by the U.S. Treasury of the Federal Reserve, going around them, using stablecoin companies, blockchain companies, to provide liquidity for the U.S. government. And eventually, the slow decline of this economic system. So as the parallel system begins to rise up, the Federal Reserve System will begin to go away. Donald Trump is full throttle, taking out the global criminal organization, the political, the military, and the financial. It's all happening in real time, people. Number one, I appreciate all your support over the years, guys. Another $25 super chat on Rumble. Thank you so much. Love your show, Josh. You have such great info. Thank you. Hope continues. I appreciate you. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Thank you for all the support. Guys, I appreciate y'all. We'll be back with you tomorrow. And then tomorrow night, DEF CON 0. And potentially a great guest coming up on DEF CON 0. Don't forget, if you're going to go over to Badlands, watch Codex 9/11. Brad put a lot of hard work into that. I'm halfway through it. It's mind-blowing. Definitely worth the watch. Much love, respect, guys. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"